Before we get to the interview, everybody, I just want to let you know I'm Dave Bondy, independent journalist. Please help support my independent journalism and click the link down below to join my Substack or my locals community. It's only $5 a month. You can quit at any time. I left the mainstream media in order to keep it real. I thought we were kind of done with this topic, and then the Michigan Department of Education got involved, and they're trying to make it more official now. And if I remember, tell me once again, you homeschool one child, right?
Two.
Okay.
Two.
Okay. And how long have you, give a little background for the people who don't know you. You've been doing that for how long?
We've been homeschooling for 3 years.
Okay.
And I currently have a 3rd grader and a 6th grader.
Okay. Everything going good? Everything fine?
Everything's great.
Okay. I was actually just talking about homeschooling with my wife today. Just had some interesting stuff going on. But this a couple of weeks ago, I think I talked to you about it. The state of Michigan suggested, or a lawmaker suggested, that they have a registry to track homeschooled children. And it seemed like it was kind of negative. Like the attorney general in Michigan kind of painted homeschools as places where children are abused. That wasn't a fair way to her to put that, really, right? That wasn't fair.
No, I think it really all came about from a case that Dana Nessel brought.
Yeah.
That she essentially ended up dropping the charges, which seems a little shady to me as to why they dropped the charges after it comes out that the parents that she was initially charging were employees of CPS, Child Protective Services.
Gotcha. I have a little bit 30-second clip of a story actually from a station I used to work at, but I trust the reporter. She's really good. I'm going to put this on the screen and listen to this for like 30 seconds because the State Department of Education responds. I'm going to put this up right now. I think you should be able to hear it as well. Let me try this.
Dr. Michael Rice wants lawmakers to set a standard when it comes to enrolling children in the state. Right now, public school districts have a list of all children who attend their schools.
This is just about providing safety for children across the state of Michigan and making sure that all children are accounted for.
Dr. Pamela Pugh is the president of the Michigan State Board of Education. She says this idea has been discussed at state board meetings.
With the rising number of children who we're concerned about being missing, and we want to make sure that they are in a setting that is safe. And we know that homeschooling definitely can be a safe space, but we just want to know that is where they are.
Dr. Rice says in his letter to lawmakers, quote, for the safety of all students, it is important to enroll students in the following 4 buckets: public schools, private schools, parochial schools, homeschools.
What is the benefit of enrolling a child within a homeschool setting with MDE?
It is just everybody playing their part to make sure that children can be accounted for. And again, that it's about safety and it's about making sure that our children are in safe environments and that we know where they are.
In December, Democrat State Representative Matt Kolzar posted on the social media site X calling for a registration process. He referenced Attorney General Dana Nessel, who charged 2 couples for alleged abuse of their foster children. Nessel said the children were homeschooled.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I lost you for a minute. During that the Attorney General, not the Attorney General, the Board of Education, she said that a lot of kids are leaving the public school system. Well, why are they leaving? What's your take on why people are doing homeschooling? Why do people do it?
Well, from a lot of the people that are in our homeschool group, what I see and hear is that a lot of people leave for multiple reasons, but one is bullying at school and it not being addressed, not properly educating their children. You know, their kids might be falling behind somewhere, and so they're not being placed properly in the right levels for reading or math, or they're not liking the curriculum that's being provided.
Yeah. What about the idea about certain states do it, but having a registry, like if you homeschool, you have to tell the state exactly where you are, where the kids are. What's your take on that? I think you've addressed it before.
I'm a little at odds with it, simply because, you know, you give the government an inch, they're going to end up taking a mile. You know, yeah, I say yes to registry, but then, you know, months down the road, they're going to say, well, this is the kind of curriculum you have to use. You have to report for standardized testing. You have to allow somebody to come in your home on a regular basis to see what you're doing. We don't want those extra miles being taken. And so our bigger concern is, you guys want to form this registry, but who's going to enforce the registry?
Yeah.
You guys they can't control or keep up with their CPS issues that they have now. How are they going to turn around and put CPS on those of us who are homeschooling?
Someone in the comments, our buddy Jordan, was asking, he and others don't understand. I don't know if they don't understand, but he says, what qualifies a parent to teach their kids at home? Who's to say parents aren't giving answers to kids to pass tests and whatnot? And you probably hear that argument before. How do you explain How do you explain homeschooling to people who haven't done it? I haven't, or don't understand it.
Okay, there are, as many people think that there aren't any rules, there are rules. We are required to teach Michigan state history and government. You're required to teach the 4 core subjects: math, reading, writing, language, science, and history, which language lessons kind of falls in the reading and the writing also. So we are required to do that. Is there anybody checking up to see if you're doing that? No. If you're honest to goodness going to be educating your children, you're going to find a curriculum that offers all of those subjects, and not just all of those subjects, but also allows you to test your child based on quizzes, midterm grades, exams, and all of that sort. And there's hundreds of curriculums out there.
Someone just asked, don't homeschool kids have to take tests anyway to see if they're passing? Not from the state, they don't, right?
Not from the state, they do not, no.
Yeah.
And there are situations like myself, we belong to the local Lutheran church, and they have schooling services. They have allowed us to come weekly to join in their weekly chapel services, and they've also extended the ability for me to standardize test my children if I want to.
You just said something, excuse me, someone in the comments said something about not checking if they do something, but I want to give an example, and you probably heard of this before. I covered news in Flint, Michigan, and there were so many kids that were just passed, kids who could not read in 5th and 6th grade. They were passed every grade. The city of Baltimore, 80% of the kids were not proficient in reading or math, and they just kept passing them, even though they were failing. So when people say, you know, are they getting it at home? They're not getting it in the public schools all the time too. It was so sad. I was a news anchor. I think you knew, most people know, and we did events where the kids would read the teleprompter, and there would be 5th and 6th graders that couldn't read. And I asked them, how did you get through? And they just passed me through. That's sad.
Absolutely. And that is what they're doing. And sadly, it's not really a teacher issue, because teachers are amazing. Honestly, I wanted to be one. I went to school to be one. There's a lot that they have to put up with. The problem is the student to teacher ratio. It's also the standards that they're setting, and they're pushing kids through because they're just another number. Unfortunately, they also have the backlash from parents who say, okay, my kid's in 3rd grade. He's not reading. the teacher and school recommend that they be held back. And the parents are like, no, my kid's not going to be held back. I want them with their friends. It's a double-edged sword. Fortunately, though, with homeschooling, we can see those discrepancies. Like my own daughter, we pulled her in the 3rd grade. She was not reading very well. We recognized that, and we were able to take a step back with her in language, but keep her moving forward in all of her other subjects. She has since caught up, and she's exceeding grade level now.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've done some research. Homeschooling students, on average, do, if not the same or better than graduates. And there's a lot of homeschooled students who have been out there that are amazingly successful. And some people think, how can they go to college? They go to college, right?
They're not only accepted to college, they're actually sought after by colleges to create more of a diverse range in their schools. Homeschoolers on average have higher ACT, SATs, and PSAT scores than public school, and it's simply because those children were taught one-on-one. They were given individual instruction, given the time to explore what they love to learn about. And they're given the opportunity to just be able to work through instead of being pushed ahead.
I talked to someone recently about homeschooling, and they said literally children are learning everywhere. The parent I talked to said they had their kid at the gas station and they were teaching them about math, like when they were pumping gas, because literally learning is not just inside a classroom. That's what this woman was telling me. That makes sense?
That's absolutely true. When we go to the grocery store, we sit there and, if I'm going to pay with cash, I'm going to say, okay, here's my total. Here's a $20 bill. How much am I going to get back in change?
Yeah.
And usually my 6th grader can go ahead and tell me that answer quickly.
Yeah, it's just I think my computer froze up. I'm looking for questions from people here, but part of this was to bring you back because I don't think a lot of people understand, but there are certain states, Florida, Iowa, Florida opened up homeschooling completely, where in the state of Florida, I think if the state money follows the child. So if the child goes to a private school or homeschooling, the money goes to the child. And what it's done made the public schools step up their game. So education in Florida, which used to be dead last, is now near the top, because if the public schools have to compete for that money, it's like any business, they're going to step up their game. So is that what you think Michigan, we're in Michigan, is that what Michigan should do? I know it's outside of the box and lawmakers may not like that.
Absolutely. It's economics 101. If you have a free market, you're going to have better competition amongst the masses. So you're going to have public schools, instead of dropping their standards for their teachers and instead of dropping their standards for the students, they're going to be increasing those standards. And not only are they going to increase those standards, but they're going to increase their production rate. I mean, they're going to sit there and actually spend quality time on subjects that matter. I mean, as a whole, our country, what was it? We are in the bottom third out of industrial nations. The bottom third, the U.S. country is the bottom third out of industrial nations for math.
That is
we
not
cannot
good.
compete. We cannot compete with China. We can't compete with, what were these other schools here? All of the Asian countries, really.
And it's sad because our young people are my 6 and 10-year-old are going to be the ones running this country.
Yeah.
So and I know it's a whole big issue, teachers unions, they have a lot to do with it, but I think it's starting to a trend. Florida, Tennessee, do you think people are starting to realize, because Grand Rapids, they closed 8 schools. Flint closed so many schools. Saginaw, Michigan, school districts are closing schools. Do you think at some point in Lansing's the capital of Michigan, for those of you who don't know, who aren't from here, they'll click something's going on? You think?
I think they have to get the clue sooner or later. More and more every day I'm seeing regularly on several of my homeschool chat groups is that I'm pulling my kid next week. I'm pulling my kid I pulled them yesterday. People are fed up and they're pulling them left and right, knowing that there are curriculums out there that will educate your child and that you can do it in half the amount of time that the kid is sitting at a public school. My kids, both 3rd and 6th grade, school from 9 until noon every day.
And the one thing I want to ask you, and I know I'm taking some time here, but a lot of people don't understand. Oh, well, what about and I've asked you this before, what about the socialization, homeschooling, the kid's just sitting at a desk in his house by himself or herself? That's not necessarily true. There is socialization. It's a whole community, right?
No, there's a huge community. Lapeer County is one of the largest communities for homeschool. But there's a huge community across the entire state. We have regular gatherings. Our homeschool group is roughly 50 kids on average when we get together, and we're at least once a month for that. But then there's also more and more businesses opening their places of business for homeschool kids so that we can come during the day hours instead of the busy night hours for open swim, roller skating rinks, art centers.
Wow.
So my kids are with other kids every single Monday for 2 hours for art class.
That's cool. And yeah, you don't hear about that, but let me losing my voice here. The weather's changing. It's just getting to me. It's like cold and then one day. Like I said, I left the mainstream media because we did stories on homeschooling and it was like a minute 30. You can't explain things like that. Like having this discussion, and hopefully it helps. So you obviously don't regret doing it, right? Your kids are happy.
No regrets whatsoever. In fact, as a family unit as a whole, we are much more together.
Well,
it's changed the dynamic between my children. Yes, they're brother and sister, and what brother and sister doesn't fight, but more times than not, they're getting along because they have to.
Gotcha.
But we get plenty of time outside of the home. And it was a joke, I was like, oh yay, we're gonna be home all the time. We're out of the home more than we're in the home. Our curriculum is open and go. So if I have a tire rotation that needs to be done, we pack up our books and we go.
Yeah.
My daughter has horseback lessons in the middle of a day. We'll pick up our books and my son will school while she's at horseback lessons. He goes to hockey and she's schooling while she's at hockey. We make it work for us.